Hey guys, just wanted to welcome you back to our, I think it's our 11th episode on our podcast here at Grow Your Emotional Health. We're so excited to bring to you today a topic we're going to be talking about, a little bit about parenting and correction, and just kind of set this up or whatever for this podcast is, all parenting isn't. Every child is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
We have 5 children and 2 grandbabies, and our kids range from 27 all the way to 13. 11. I could keep up, and each one of our children are special in their own way. They have their own unique personalities, and I know some take correction differently. Mm-hmm. And when we had Bear, which we'll talk about today, was a different way. I grew up in a different time. Mm-hmm. And the correction was kind of the same for everyone. Mm-hmm. I remember the same way my grandmother parented and disciplined is the same way my mom did. So like I would go to my mom's house, and then I would go to my aunt's house, and then I would go to my
all the same, yeah.
It was all the same. So where universally it was kind of everybody was on the same page as far as discipline, but it was the same discipline. And kids are different now, and some are going to argue about this, but we're into health.
Well, it's not that it wasn't that it was
a lot
wrong.
of things. Well, what I'm saying is we're into health. We're into, and we study ever since I got sick, or even before, we got really into health and understanding how the mind works and how things work and physiology.
Well, I think going back to just even you going through your rehabilitation, you start realizing internal issues that you have and things with your mind and things with maybe weren't dealt with the best way they could have been dealt with, which kind of goes back to parenting. Well, not that either one of our parents were wrong, but
what I'm saying is even physiologically, the children today physiologically are different than they were 30 years ago, 20 years ago, because of processed foods, mm-hmm. all the things that we have now ready available, with the chemicals and things that are in products and stuff.
We're dealing with a lot more issues.
We're dealing with ADHD, what we didn't deal with as much in the back. We're dealing with autoimmune issues. We're dealing with sensory issues. I mean, there's so many. Yes, it was around back when our parents were younger, but not as prevalent.
Well, science even shows that it's
even science shows
more,
today. It's been more and more. The autism spectrum. It's not that we just understand it now. What it is, there is a good bit of now that we understand it, but also too with the vaccines. Shoot, when my parents were getting vaccinated, there was like what?
No, when we were getting vaccines, there were 12.
There were 12.
Now there's
my
over
parents,
72.
There was three or four.
Yeah.
The polio,
Now you've got over 72
now
that are being pushed.
So we're going to go from.
And I want to say I'm not anti-vax. I'm not.
But we're going from.
But be aware of.
Well, we're going from.
The transition.
Our parents, 3 or 4, to 72 today. And you want to say, okay.
All before they're 4 years old.
All before they're years.
Yeah.
So we want to say, okay, the kids are the same now as they were back then. No, they're exposed to so many more toxins, so many more things. So that does cause a development issue. That does cause some metabolic issues that we have to take in consideration even in our discipline. Where kids don't respond, not all children, and I think coming up with what we're going to talk about today is more a individualized parenting style based on the makeup of that child, based on their physiology, based on their mental health, based on the whole, just as we would do.
Right.
In education.
Right. It's just not a one-size-fits-all.
One-size-fits-all anymore in education. Yeah. And we're finding that when we do more of a tailored approach to the education of our children, are we doing the same thing to the discipline? Because discipline is a huge guide, motivation for education, for discipline. There's a more are we taking a tailored approach? And I think that's one of the things I would like to kind of we talk about today. So in chapter 5, I started and I wrote in the emotional intelligence books in chapter 5, it really talks about correction and the idea of where correction comes out of Corinthians and things like that. And so I spent a good time in developing that. And if you'll read and kind of go through, let's kind of start there.
Do you want me to read or tell where this is all coming from?
You can go ahead and tell where it's coming from, and then kind of go from that direction.
So the reason today's topic was so easy for me is the past couple of weeks, just in conversation, one of the stories from when Bear was, I think he was 3 or 4 at the time, has come up, and I keep finding myself telling that story, and I'm like, okay, obviously it needs to be talked about. And actually, one of my girls, we were talking, and I was like, maybe we should do a podcast on this because it keeps coming up. And she was like, yes, this is needed. Like, parents need to hear this. They need to know they're not alone, and that there are different approaches, different ways to handle it. So let's go back to when Bear was, like I said, he was 3 or 4. We started noticing we couldn't spank him. If we spanked him, he would go to his room and slam the door, or go to his room and punch the wall, or he was getting angry. So our spanking, trying to correct him with the spanking, was not working, and we're going, what are we going to do? I had raised Hope and Tolan and Janie with the same discipline, and now I've got Bear, and I'm going, what the heck? Like, this is not working. And you don't want to hurt your kids, but that's all we knew. You parent your kids the way you were parented, because that's how it's done. So I remember sitting down, and one of our, he's a Christian psychologist, very dear friend, and we were talking, and this is kind of how the conversation went. We're having this issue with Bear. He's doing this, and he said, it sounds like he has ODD, which is oppositional defiance disorder. And we were like, okay, so what do we do with that? And he said, well, you're going to have to change the way you parent. And we're like, what does that mean? Because we were raised, if you made something for dinner and you sat down at the table and you didn't want that, then you went to bed hungry. Or you did whatever they told you to do, or you got a spanking. Or I did, the parent was the final word, the only word, and you were meant to be seen and not heard type deal. And
the diagnosis was, there was a name for occupational...
No, oppositional defiance disorder. I just said that. Yeah.
Okay.
So he also told us that usually when a child has ODD, that it starts with the parents. They start noticing it. They're highly intelligent usually, and a few years after, you're going to find out that they're ADHD, which we did, found out that Bear had ADHD. And the problem is, if you don't correct it at the younger years, he said it can transfer over into the teachers once they get into the school age and start moving up. Thankfully, I think we did a good job at curbing a little the behavior or whatever. We're still working on, just because it's not normal for us to do certain things, or to, like, we can be quick to yell at them when it would be easier to sit down and explain things. Like, we're still working on parenting things.
It's explaining and giving choices. And, one of the things that, when I was growing up, and you touched on this a few minutes ago, was that it's do this because I said so. Mm-hmm. And it was more of a directional style. Like I said, I'm not downing my parents. It's just a different world we lived in. Yeah. So there was a directional, hey, I need you to go pick this up there, whatever. But finding out when we talked with him, that it's more of an optional basis.
So here's what we were told. We were like, well, how in the world are we going to change our parenting? Because we only know one way of parenting. And he said, okay, I remember this question being asked, at what age do you respect your child? And I remember sitting there, and he was like, just throw an age out there. Is it 10, 13, 16, 18 when they're legally an adult, 21? And I'm sitting there, and I remember thinking, at the age, I think I was 32 at the time, I still didn't feel like respected from my parents.
Yeah.
Like I was still the 12-year-old little girl, and they still needed to come in. And so all these things are going through my head just from that one question, what age do you respect? And Lenny, I remember Lenny saying, he was like, okay, so here's an example. Tolan at the time was newly a teenager, and he was like, okay, so when I want something done, the garbage taken out. And Tolan's in his room playing video games. I want to go in there and open the door and go, hey, I need the garbage taken out now. And in our brains, we expect them to put down their video game, get up, and immediately go take out the garbage because Dad's spoken. And I remember Mr. Buckner was like, well, wouldn't it be much better, because you don't like being talked to like that, wouldn't it be much better if you said, hey, buddy, I see that you're busy playing your video game. In about 5 minutes, I need you to get to a stopping point, and then I need your attention to do some things for me. Which one is going to be better responded to? The one where you see and you respect that he's doing something, okay, or the one where you get up and do it now because I said so? And none of us we don't like being talked to like that. We don't like being yelled at. We don't.
In order, one of the things in emotional intelligence in order to get somebody to respond to you, you have to first notice the value in them and notice that they have it. When you're leading, or you're leading a group or whatever, just in management, when you don't take time to notice the value in them immediately, first of all, they're not going to respect you. They're not going to open their mind to listen to you, so that you can, the whole idea of management is to get as much work as you can out of your employee. And so in emotional intelligence, that was kind of the study of behaviors to understand, how can I better get this person to fall in line with my ideals.
So then we talked about that too with choices, where, okay, remember I just said when we had dinner time, we sat down, we ate what we ate, and I remember him saying, give them a choice. They just want to feel respected. They want to feel like they have a say in whatever you're doing. They want to feel like they have a choice. I can tell you from someone who did not have many choices growing up, because it was do as I say, when I did have the chance to make the choices, and I wasn't I did things I shouldn't, but I made all the wrong ones just because I could. And I wasn't given the flexibility to maybe make some wrong choices and then be talked through on, okay, how could you have done that better? What could we have done better here? Or it was, you goofed up, and there was no goof up. Like, there was no inch, there was no choice.
It's the ability to develop a child. And I think about when it talks about the Bible of teach a child the way they may go, and when they get older, they won't depart from that. But in some of your best teachers are the teachers that know how to develop a student, not just instruct a student. And you as a parent, where's that line of instruction?
Well, in order to develop them, they have to be able to think of the choices.
Development.
Yeah.
And how can I? And I think it comes to a point of, it's all about work. As a parent, it's easier for me to, and I'm just saying of myself, it's easy for me to direct and not develop. And we think that mind or that mode works. And
yeah, but then they grow up and they're 18 and they don't know which choice to make, because you've just given them all of their choices. There was no choice.
Yeah.
So another example that he gave us, he was like, okay, you're the parent, right? You're always going to be the parent. The idea is to still make the choice, but give them the illusion of choice. If you know, this is the example he used, if you know that you want your child in bed by 8:30, you go to them and you say, Bear, it's 8 o'clock now, buddy. Do you want to stay up for 30 more minutes and watch a show or do whatever? Or do you want to go ahead and go to bed now? You've just set the choice up for he's going to pick 8:30. That's the time you want to, but he feels like he has a choice in the matter. He feels like his voice matters.
Well, I feel like too, so we were raised, our parents, from that Vietnam era, their parents were the World War II era. They were raised by World War II. And, Great Depression. And so if you study history and which I'm a history guy, I like studying that kind of stuff, and you understand, okay, most of the men, our grandfathers, where did they learn discipline? Where did they learn? They learned it in, post-war,
right,
and through World War II. And, that mentality of, not saying it's wrong, I'm saying that mentality of of doing what you're told without any questions is to prepare a soldier, right, to be able to do what he needs to do in the battlefield. But one of the things that we saw, and you can see in history, was when these men got back, when that structure was there no longer, now they had to integrate into life as a individual. I'm not stateside. That is, there's
Civilian, yeah.
a civilian. Not sorry, that's the word I was thinking of. Is there was a hard, how do I transition back to society? And you can go and study it yourself. There's a huge, I mean, I have multiple friends, and I come from a military background. My family, I wasn't in the military, but my father was in the military, and so they were taught, and they're only taught what they're taught. Right. And so we're seeing the repercussions of that one size fit all, line up, do this, do that, and not necessarily building somebody. We were just creating, and so you have to kind of deal with that now in the society that we have now. Is kids want to have respect, and now you're trying to teach them after they've done things way they shouldn't.
I remember growing up and having, but why? Like,
well,
explain to your kids why, but trust me, after we've taken that whole approach too, it's like, oh my gosh, you get to a point where you're like, because I said so. Because you have those kids that need to know, they want to know why on everything. Why can't, I remember growing up, and one of the things was sex before marriage. Well, why? Because we're Christians and we're not supposed to have sex before marriage. Well, maybe that needs to be explained a little more to someone, so that instead of just saying we're Christians and that's,
so
well, no, there's...
Let's talk about it. So, for development, asking the question why is very important. I think that's kind of the problem that
well, you have some kids that go along with whatever you say and it's good, but then you have some that need to know why.
But there's also a good group of kids that follow and don't lead. Leaders, they need to know why. It's not just, hey, they have to understand the plan. They have to understand the objective.
Right.
They have to understand, we know with teams, when we're trying to build teams and we're trying to teach people the system and the things like that we do with our network marketing business, is we have to convey to them a vision. And they
some
have
of them, which is just like kids.
Yeah,
some will just
everyone,
you can lay a system out and go, here's the system, and they go, okay, and they get to it. And then some, they want to know why I'm doing this. They want to know the intricate details of the comp plan. They want to know, which is how I am. I wanted to get in there and know everything, where I know there's some people that are just like, okay, what's the next? What's the next? What's the next? And
so that's where we go back to taking, and that's what we're trying to say here, is taking a tailored approach, knowing your child, learning your child, and going, okay, where we've got Janie, and we'll use our own children as a just as in this conversation, where Janie is like you. Janie needs to know. Doesn't mean she's wrong or there's something wrong with her.
Right.
It means the way her brain works, it works in detail, and she has to understand and know it's not that I don't want to do it, I'm not willing to do it, but she has to understand the process, because if she understands the process, here's what's amazing about Janie. She'll get it done exactly the way the process requires. Like and she could analyze it and figure out how to a better
because, hey, this can be done better this way.
Because that's her brain. And so are we developing her, or are we hindering her? And that's one of the things that you have to look at in your discipline. What's the point of discipline? To get someone to fall in line so that so that they, whatever, you respect you, or you have, or are we really raising our kids the way they may be able to go? Right. And that's kind of, we got to go back to that verse and go, am I training my child up?
And go without us.
And be able to go. Yeah. I know when it comes to decision making, Janie will be fine. And we see in her life, through her job, through her marriage and the different things, there's not a holding of a hand.
No, she's
right?
good. Yeah.
She's able to do. So that's because we notice those things and say, okay, well, we're going to parent that way. You know, and I learned a lot from Tommy and Rhoda on how they parent because they do a lot of this same. And Tommy talked about it at church one day. He was explaining how Andrew is so much different than Christopher, and he had told a story about which I really thought was really cool. Andrew wanted to go to a party, and you know, Tommy's like, hey. In his spirit, he knew that the party's probably is not a good place where his son needs to be.
Right.
And they had to make a choice. Do I give him a choice, or do I tell him no, he can't go? And his approach with Andrew was, hey, bud, do you think it is a good place for you to be? He was willing to take time and allow his son to think about it and work it out, and then asking him those questions to lead him into making the right decision, a decision that builds him, grows him, and moves him forward.
And then be ready if he chooses the wrong thing to sit with him in that decision and go, okay, that probably wasn't the best decision, but how can we move through that move forward?
Let's talk about that, because as a parent, that's one of the hardest things is whenever you see your child making decisions and you've instructed them, you've given them that choice, A and B, and you know A is the right and B is the wrong, but yet they chose
They're
B.
still going to do it.
How do you navigate that? I mean, me personally, I look at that. That's why it's so important to model Christ and to model. If you're not where you need to be in your relationship with God the Father, and you as His child, He's the ultimate parent, and you need to be drawing your energy from Him and your lessons from Him, because we can go back and we can look at, okay, how have I been with God, and how did He respond with me?
He knocks me over the head all the time. I remember it was over the course of a weekend talking about God parenting us.
Yeah.
And this also goes back to the asking questions why, where there are times and places for them to be able to ask, and sometimes you just need to be obedient. And it was a God moment for me. I remember on Friday, Kat did something that was super dangerous, and I told her to stop or whatever, and she didn't, and I was just getting frustrated. Saturday, or that was Friday, Saturday Bear did something, Sunday they both did something, and I remember getting on to him. Bear was running around the backside of the car, and there was a car coming, and I was run over by a car when I was 2. So I'm super careful with the kids in the street and around the street, and there was a car coming, and Bear was darting out, and I said, Bear, stop. And instead of him just stopping, he kept going because he wanted to run around and ask me why he could. And I got out to the back of the porch. I can still see myself standing there, and these 2 little Cat and Bear standing there, and I was so angry, probably did not respond the right way. And I said, you guys have all weekend been making, just going against everything. You're not listening. If I tell you to stop, sometimes you just need to stop and do it before finding out why, because I know what's coming. And it was like God just hit me over the head with that Golden Corral frying pan and was like, do you hear yourself? Sometimes I'm going to give you instruction, and you just need to do it because I say go do it. And I'll explain later. And a lot of times it's for our safety. There are times in our kids' lives where Lenny's even trained them with the guns, where he's like, and he's told me, he was training me with the kids. He was like, if we ever get in a situation and I tell you to move or to whatever, don't ask questions, just do it. You know, if there's certain gun safeties or whatever, he knows best, he knows how to handle it, but there's things that he's going to do to protect the family that there's a time and a place.
I believe it also has to do with, 1, your relationship, 2, with your trust. And
it all goes back to God, your trust and relationship.
You trust the Lord that, okay, I may not understand it right now, but I want to build that muscle memory to when God tells me to move, I move. Yeah. And even explaining,
and that takes time.
Even that's the part of teaching that to your child. It's not that I don't agree with just do because I tell you to, right?
Right.
Because you're
That can be dangerous.
you're wasting time that you could be teaching them. No, you do this because exactly what you're saying there. You could tell a story like that there of, hey, I could see what you can't see. And there are times that you need, so it means you got to take a little more time. And I think as parents, one of our problems is we don't invest the time. Our time management's bad. I mean, me as a parent, where I can invest instead of yelling at them and expecting, because I'm trying to get to my next thing.
Yep.
Instead of, one of the things I watched with Tommy and his boys is he's not perfect, but he stops and takes the time. Even my own brother. One thing I learned from my brother, which when it came to his kids, I would like, man, that's really, he would get down,
right, and parent them,
and he would explain, we're not doing this, you need to do this, and whatever. And I remember one time, I was like, that convicted me. God used that to convict me and be like, Lenny, you want Bear or you want Cat to do these things and whatever, but yet you're not taking the time to sit down and explain to them and help build their understanding.
Right.
'Cause it's all about understanding.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong for a child to understand.
Right.
Are we just too impatient to teach them? Then we pray and ask God for patience. You know, I know that Stephanie doesn't want to ask for patience. You know,
I did ask for patience,
but
and he puts you through the trials to give you some patience.
I would say one of the things, and I went and saw Buck Sunday. I hugged his neck and I said, I want to thank you. And he said, for what? I said, you developed in me a love for books. A guy that grew up, I have spatial dyslexia, that's always dyslexia. And so reading wasn't my forte. I didn't enjoy doing it. And so I was very fearful of books, fearful of that. I like to learn, but books are not through reading. And I remember when I was going through recovery, through my drug addiction and alcohol problems, I had to do with anger, had to do with all the underlying trauma, what caused, I wouldn't say caused, but allowed me to go into those self-medicating issues. And how he mentored me and how he worked with me was always a book. And the first few books he gave me, I hated it because I'm like, I'm here for advice.
You're supposed to tell me what to do.
Supposed to tell me what to do. I'm not here to sit here and read some book that, or whatever. And he would just smile and laugh and be like, here, read this book. So fast forward over 60-something books of every time there was something that I had an issue with. It wasn't just a simple, hey, Lenny, just do this. It was, hey, Lenny, I read this book and it said A, B, and C. Go check it out. And most of the time he would give me the book. He would never recommend a book to me.
Because he knows people need to come to it on their own.
And not have the book. So in my counseling, that's what I do. I have several people that come to me for counseling. And so what I do is I do the same thing. Here's this book. And
if they want the help, they will read the book.
If they want to change,
not serious about
they'll read the
help,
book.
then they don't.
And so I say that to say, then I got into writing books, and in dealing with Bear and dealing with our children and understanding how to teach them, and individually, I started understanding, okay, I'm understanding emotional intelligence for myself. Man, this is stuff, self-regulation skills, and this is stuff my son needs.
Not even Cat and Bear are totally different. They're
100%.
One you can talk to one way and will crush the spirit of the other one, and which, can we get into reading this? Because that talks about all that.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to read a little bit from, this is chapter 5. This part of the chapter is empathy and correction. Paul wasn't afraid to correct. In fact, some of his letters are filled with rebukes because he loved the churches too much to let them drift into sin. In Corinthians, he addressed a community drowning in problems, division, immorality, pride, lawsuits, even abuse of the Lord's Supper. Yet notice his tone. He didn't open with condemnation, he opened with gratitude. I thank my God always concerning you for the grace of God which was given to you by Christ Jesus. Even in correction, he reminded them of grace. I underline that one because I'm guilty of not doing that. So even his books are teaching me. When Paul had to address their immorality, he used strong words but wrapped them in love. I do not write these things to shame you, but as my beloved children I warn you. That's empathy in action. He saw their failure but also their identity. He called them beloved, even while calling out their sin. His goal wasn't to crush them, but to restore them, to bring them back into alignment with Christ. That should always be our end goal.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're parenting your kid.
You don't want to crush them. And there are so many times where my tongue is so sharp that I let it fly out. I have to go back and apologize. Something will fly out, and I can literally just see it crush Bear's spirit, or crush, and then I feel like literal poop. I feel like crap after saying that. So I do apologize a lot to my kids because I could have better self-control with my tongue. But just to be able to use everything as instruction.
That's one of the seats of severe trauma, is a crushed spirit.
Yeah.
And whenever you think about how even in the war, understanding of war and stuff, whenever they would take in POWs, the biggest thing wasn't just the torture and the stuff. It was to crush out all hope, break them down to where they're not even human, where they don't feel. Because if you can break somebody and create so much trauma in them to where they no longer feel like they're human, you've crushed their will, and you've crushed their spirit. And we do that as parents with our children very easily, because it's out of frustration that we respond to them. And a lot of times out of that frustration, those are the daggers you can't take back. And so then you've got to go on trauma patrol and re-establish a ground that you've lost.
Ultimately, we should be building them.
100%.
Building them
100%.
up. It says that's the difference empathy makes. Without empathy, correction feels like rejection. How many times does he do you still love me? Yes. Yes, we still love you. Just because we're getting on to you, or just because we're trying to lead you this way, doesn't mean that we don't love you.
Well, but that's also you want to know, how do I know? How do I know if I'm doing this to my kid?
Yeah.
They'll tell you.
If they're questioning.
When they're questioning, are you upset with me?
Yeah.
I mean, those aren't just them being super sensitive. Kids they're very intuitive.
Now, okay, you guys, I know we go off back and forth. Earlier I felt like we were saying don't do this, but do this. The whole point is that there are times for everything, and there are different ways with each child to do that. So we're going to give you examples of things that we do that, on the contrary, with the other kid we don't do, or because we talked about the chemicals, the way we eat, the way people are different now, kids are different now. There are things that, even like with you and I, there are sometimes that you're super sensitive, or you feel different ways without medicine than you do with medicine. And there are things like with Bear where he does get, where are you mad at me, where he questions, are you mad at me, and he's not on anything now, but I'm just saying, do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Like when you're on your medicine, you don't ask me all those things.
Yeah.
Like you don't always feel like you're on the defense. Like you're.
I believe. Well, it's one of those things you got to listen to your kids, and again, you got to use discernment. I mean, if your child is on medication and stuff, and you know that there's
sometimes if they're not, and they're just asking all the time, are you mad at me?
I would truly. I know for my case.
Yeah.
Because my son's not on. I'm on meds, but my son's not on any meds, and I know me. And if you'd really be open to yourself, like lower your pride,
Yeah.
be open to yourself,
Yeah.
and go. Because if you can ask yourself, have I? It'll quit. God will reveal it to you. God will go, Lenny. He does it to me. Here's the battle I have. But Lord, I know I was sharp. I know, because I would say probably 85 to 90% of the time when Bear's like, are you mad at me? I can point to
Why he would feel that way.
why he would feel that
Yeah.
way. I mean, I can lie to myself and say no, you know, so I could feel better about my being a butt, but you have to allow your children to teach you. And if your child doesn't feel safe with you and he doesn't feel drawn to you.
Well, they read tones just like everybody else does.
They read tones, they read frustration. Now, kids are good at manipulating situations, and I understand that too. So there's always a balance.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly out of balance with something, special with your child, you're the adult. I mean, you can, and that's one of the things that Buck really hit me hard with one time. Because I was going back and forth, and I'm like, well, Bear's this, and Bear, and I remember him just like looking at me and going, so what? You're the adult. You got to figure out how. You can tell me all the excuses of why, but Bear is this, Bear is that, and this is that. But Lenny, you're the adult. You're the one in charge to teach him. It's not a tit for tat with your child. It's not. A grown person, yeah, because you could choose to have a relationship with that person or not. And if they're not figuring it out, that's the difference. Yeah. If they're not figuring it out, then you can break relationship. They can go through their, and you go your way.
Right.
You are not allowed to do that with your child.
Yeah.
You're not.
I agree.
Because they are put in your care. Now, when they're 18 and they want to go in the world and do whatever, and they're out of your home and out of underneath your umbrella of whatever, then that's a different story. But while they're in your home, under your care, to be trained and to be taught, God, you have a responsibility from God. If you're not understanding the emotional signs that your kids have, it's your responsibility to go buy a book.
Yeah.
And care enough to figure it out.
Yeah.
It really bothers me with, this day and age, because like I said, I counsel with people and they'll be talking about their kids or whatever, and yet they don't have any desire to want to know or how to fix it. Like, they just want to come and complain about it. But when I say, hey, well, here's, I wrote this book, like this book right here, Growing Big Hearts, Emotional Intelligence for Kids, for Families. This book is written, every single chapter is a story. So the way the book is written is to teach emotional intelligence through stories. So kids as little as 3 years old. And it's a scenario, it's a story about Cat and Bear and whoever, I put their names in there, put several names in there. But it's to go over what self-awareness is, to go over there what empathy is. Chapter 9 gives you a full overview of emotional intelligence, so you at least have a kind of an understanding. And then you, the parent, learn from the story.
And this stuff is not taught in school, and that's why I wrote it, because
it's not. Because
kids need to know what
they need emotional regulation.
Emotional intelligence
they
is,
need so emotional intelligence, and super easy to sum it up, is emotional regulation. How to understand your emotions, have the right emotions for the right thing. I mean, there's a cool chart in here that has faces on it. You've got
little games in there.
There's games, there's guides, there's all kinds of cool stuff in there that I added with this book, so that you can, your kid can point to a face and try to match up his emotion, because it's your responsibility to teach your children the right emotions. You're doing it anyway. You know why? You're blowing up when you shouldn't.
Making mountains out of molehills.
They're frustrating you, and you have no idea why you're frustrated. That's normal. That's what they're feeling.
That's one thing that I love that Buck said too. He was like, your kids have the same emotions you do. They're going to get angry. Let them be angry. Like, how many times have we gotten onto our kid for what something happened the other day.
For being angry.
Let me say this. We're using Bear a lot today in this. Bear is an amazing, amazing young man.
Huge heart.
He's going to be 13 this year. He's probably the one that grows us the most.
Yeah.
He just wants to help. He has an amazing, big heart, a love for others. He just wants to be used. He just wants to be loved. He just wants to love like that. But he does push us to be better parents, like better people, because I want to be the best parent for him. Do I feel like I fail probably the most with him? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of me, not because of him. It's because of me. I battle back and forth between
your
am I
children-
trying to keep him safe from other people or other people safe from him? And I say that all the time, kind of tongue in cheek. I don't mean it, and I don't mean it in a mean way. I'm always the one that's being like, Bear, just stop. Don't ask them that, or leave them alone, or what. And where people tell me all the time, we love Bear, you know. But he has really pushed me personally the most.
Yeah.
But I think that's because the dude's destined for greatness. Like God has huge plans for Bear. I don't know what it is. Probably going to be political or something, because he doesn't know a stranger. He wants to shake everybody's hand. He really wants to, like, if you've had the chance to meet Bear, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, he has a huge heart, and he wants to develop people. He wants to help people. He wants to be involved with people.
Yeah.
And you know, he's like his dad. His dad's like, I'm like my dad. We have a love for people, and we love to reach people. We love to share the gospel. Bear's the same way.
Yeah.
And but there's also requirements that God has put in my life to teach him and to better equip him.
Yeah.
Better than I was equipped. And you know, we can blame our situations and our raising, you know, whatever, of how we are, or we can look at it and go, hey, I want to do this better.
Chance to do it better. Yeah.
Not that it shades the
Not at all.
who we are.
We should always be trying to do better.
But I think you should take the commandment. If you're going to bring a kid into this world, you should take it serious enough to raise them the way they should go.
And so saying that we want to do things better is not a slight towards my parents or your parents.
No.
It's actually empathy, knowing that they just did the best that they could, and that they also were trying to do better than their parents did. My parents were trying to do better than theirs. We're trying to do better than them. My kids are going to look at us and go, I got to do better than Steph and Lenny.
But I want Bear.
Me too.
I want Bear to
Go farther, do better.
be better than I
Absolutely.
am with him,
Yeah.
with his kids. But what does that take? It takes me educating myself.
Yeah.
You know,
Putting in the work.
What bothers me is we'll do it for if we have a drug addiction or we have a whatever, our marriage is breaking up. But are
our
we going to go
kids.
buy a book that's going to help me better communicate and help my son learn his emotions? Right? And you don't know how many people, when I go to book, I went to, I have a part of a book organization. And so I sat with several other authors and writers or whatever. And he's like, what do you, and this, at first, this was the only book I had. And we talked or whatever. And he's like, it's like a light bulb went off. He's like, oh my gosh, man. He's like, dude, you need to keep doing what you're doing, because that right there, nobody's doing that.
So here's the deal.
They're not
I was going to
teaching
say, if not Lenny's book, go find another one. Here's the thing. There's not another one out there right now teaching
emotional
intelligence for your kids, emotional intelligence for your teen. There's other emotional intelligence books, but Lenny's looked. They are not breaking it down the way he has.
No.
Like, he can turn all of his stuff and will turn it into workbooks and to different curriculums and different things. I've had someone already tell me she did the one with her grandson, and it was a huge success.
Yeah.
That the book worked amazingly well, and that she, you know, I was like, go write a review. We need the reviews.
It's, you know, and like I said, I'm not writing any of this to be a.
We just want to help people.
It was never my goal to be a world-renowned writer. I don't like to write. I mean, I don't like. I'm dyslexic. Being an author was not on my
list.
Was not on my dreams. You know, that was never a dream of mine. It really wasn't.
But you're amazing at
but-
it. Your books
but-
are really, really good.
God gave me the ability, and He had given me the tools to, when I did emotional intelligence, none of this had, so emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, physical intelligence, they're all the trichotomy of how we're created, you know? And I'm like, when I was studying emotional intelligence and then I studied spiritual intelligence in the world is all kooky or whatever. But I'm like, well, we need to have, it needs to be done through biblical eyes.
Yeah.
And there are no, I'm the only
Through the lens
writer
of the Bible.
that does emotional intelligence through a spiritual lens for your children, for your teenager, and for you as a person.
So y'all can be the first to have
So
it.
there are, and that was the need. You
Yeah.
said, why did I do? There was a need because this makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
This has changed my life and revolutionized my life with my children, how I parent, how I live as a businessman, how I am as a pastor, how I'm as all these things. It was all with emotional intelligence and then spiritual intelligence. And then
Well, it's
now,
even affected how you are as a husband.
how I,
You're just
physically,
grown. Yeah.
how I've gone through what I've gone through, why it's this biggest book I've written, because it's what we're fleshing out.
Yeah.
So you want to finish?
We are still working through this ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to this. That's the difference that empathy makes. Without empathy, correction feels like rejection. It becomes condemnation. Sharp words that wound but don't heal. With empathy, correction feels like care. Paul told the Galatians, "Brethren, if a man is overtaken in any trespass, you who are spiritual, restore such a one in a spirit of gentleness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted." That's empathy, remembering you're not above the same struggle, and offering correction with humility, not superiority. Empathy helps us see beyond the mistake to the person that God loves. Paul constantly reminded believers of who they were in Christ. Do you not know that you're the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? He corrected them by pointing them back to their true identity, not just telling them what was wrong, but calling them to live up to who God made them be. I feel like that's easier for us to do with our friends and harder for us to do with our children. We do that in 3, where we're constantly like, I see it in you, let me pull it out.
Do you know why?
Tell me.
Because they're versions of us. And when it's hard to look at your kid and not see yourself, I can most guarantee you, when you're not pulling it out of your kid, you're not pulling it out of yourself. And you want to find a good gut check? If we're having this conversation and internally you're looking at it going, that question, it'll reveal the answer. Because that's why it's hard for us to pull it out of our kid, because we see it and even to the confidence of, I can't do it. Well, if I can't do it, I know he can't do it. Oh my gosh. How disruptive is that? And so that's where you have to pray and take that to the Father and go, Lord God, give me the confidence so that I may teach my child to have the confidence.
To have the confidence.
Yeah, we talked about it the other day. Catherine did.
With
She asked me some things, and I'm trying to be better at being. I may tell them things that's hurtful, but not in a hurtful way, if they're asking me that question. And she said, what do you see, because we were at the fair or whatever, what do you see as limitations or whatever in my life? That was kind of the synopsis of the question. And we were talking about Bear and
because he didn't want to ride rides.
Because he didn't want to ride and this kind of stuff, whatever. And I said, well, with you, I said, you're phenomenal in a lot of things. You're phenomenal in karate. She was phenomenal. She just, she has a natural ability to pick up things, dancing.
Choreography, yeah.
Choreography. She's phenomenal at it. But she is so fearful for people to see her. And
that was me.
I went, it was her mother. The same fears. Bear has the fears of me of not feeling like I'm good enough. Not feeling that I'm... So those are generational curses.
Yeah.
That we as the parents, it is my wife's duty to train her daughter to not have that same
stage fright,
issue.
being seen. Yeah.
How does she do that? By being vulnerable and letting her know her kid, that she deals with it. How do you conquer it, Mom? I do this.
I do it scared. That's what I tell them all the time. Do you get scared when you go up there to sing? Y'all, I can't eat before I sing on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. They put donuts in the back room or bagels or whatever, and everybody's eating. I'm sitting there. My stomach is in such knots before I go out there and sing that I can't eat until I'm done. Like, I get cold. Praying. I'm working through it, but I get out there every time, and you do it scared. And then once I'm out there on the stage, and it releases. But that initial anxiety of, what if I mess up? I'm one of those that wants to have everything perfect before I do it. And that's one of the hardest things that I'm working through as an adult, is being okay to not, what did somebody say the other day? So we use FOMO a lot, fear of missing out. And somebody said FOMO, and it was the fear of messing up. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is so good. Stop saying fear of missing out, fear of messing up. Do it through the fear. Like, be courageous.
Well,
work through that.
How can you abbreviate the fear of not being enough?
Will you just take the... Are you asking me how to do it?
Yeah, how do you do that? Because where I deal with Bear, with me.
Let's see, FONMU.
Yeah.
Fondmu.
But that's where with Bear.
Yeah.
Because that was my struggle all my life, was fearing that I'm not enough.
You got to beat it.
You know, if I have this relationship with this friend or this person, they're not going to think I'm worthy enough. You know, and there's people in my life that I see all the time that I knew when I was a kid, and I see them at church and whatever like that, and I go back to those.
Does that little kid still come out?
It goes back to my head, and I go, you know, and they're grown, you know, and they have families and they have kids, and you get, there's one guy that's in my mind right now. I'm not gonna say his name or whatever because he goes to my church, and I don't want to be, you know, whatever. Weird or whatever. But we knew each other in high school, and we actually were in a friend group.
Is he bald and fat now?
No,
he is. That was a joke.
No, he is a phenomenal father and phenomenal businessman, and very well put together. And I watch him a lot. And one thing that but always had this, am I enough to be his friend, you know, or enough to, and all that I missed out. Like, now I talk to him a lot at church and whatever and things, and I'm like, man, I missed out on a lot of fear. Like, I could have been closer to him. Right. Like, because we're still, held you back. My point is, we're still like, we still see each other every day, but we're not, or, you know, every Sunday, but we're not close. Like, you know, and it wasn't for any other but fear. Yeah. Fear is what kept me. And so, like with Bear, how do I help teach Bear that don't allow that fear to keep you from building that relationship, that you are enough. Well, you don't have to be like even confident in the things that you like. You know, there's going to be people that I remember. It wasn't until I was an adult, even several years as an adult, going, well, what does Lenny enjoy? Well, I enjoy whatever you enjoy. Because I was so afraid of not having a connection, right? Not having value in who I was, right? Okay, what do you like? You like that? I like that too. Just so that I didn't.
I'm not that person.
But those are the struggles that Bear has. Yeah. You know,
so it goes back to what you're saying. You see that in
fears.
You. Yeah.
I see that in me, and I see that in him. So I have a choice. I can work on that to help him, because that's my charge as his father, or I can deny it in me and deny it in him.
And then you've just screwed him out of.
100%.
Yeah.
Do I love my kid enough to change some things in me?
Yeah.
To model for him so that he can be better and realize, hey, I don't have to live in fear like that. Yeah. I don't, because it does manifest itself in other ways, like with me, was trauma, and from that trauma, alcoholism and all that. Yeah, I don't want my kid to have to go down that road. So if you don't want your children to go down that road, you're going to have to do some investment. And it's not that just do what I say, you know? Yeah. I believe in becoming their friend. Now, I agree.
I almost started talking about that 30 minutes ago and didn't bring it up.
But it needs to be talked about.
So the whole I'm your parent, not your friend. Being a good parent involves being a good friend. I'm not saying only be a friend. You can still parent, but if you don't learn to be your child's friend or be friendly or be able to be silly and enjoy things that they enjoy and do things with them, they will grow up and not have any kind of relationship with you other than being told what to do.
Yeah. Or they'll only come to you for instruction or not. You know, like...
I want, and I'm so thankful that I have kids that something happens in their life and I'm the phone call. Hey, this just happened.
Yeah.
Hope calls me just for whatever. I get silly text messages from Janie, Tolan and I just to say I love you. Like there's...
They want to be around you.
I love that.
You know, I look at Tommy. I mean, I don't think Tommy's perfect, so please don't. But I love Tommy.
But they do have good parenting skills.
They were phenomenal because I remember their unit, you know, and they were a very close family. But even my Uncle Cliff, and my Aunt Opal, like their kids still want to be around.
When your kids grow up, do they still want to be in your presence?
They still want to be in your presence. They want to be around each other, you know. And then I look at Tommy with his sons, Andrew. They want to spend time with each other. They want
not
to be,
because they need to or have to, but they want to.
I even look Pastor Messer and his boys, and I look at the Davises and their sons. They want to be with each other.
There are times when you're gonna need to give advice if they want it, if they ask for it. But there should be times where you can just go have fun and be a friend to them. And man, hey, this is going on in my life, and just go, that sucks. That really sucks for you. I'm sorry. Without being that, you need to do, or I told you so, and that can be hard. And if you don't learn to do that when they're younger, I'm telling you, when they grow up and move out, you're going to wish you had built that friendship and not just that list of instructions that you have for them. Because they get to a point, you want them to get to a point where they don't need the instruction because they're okay. And then you can flip the switch and be like...
I think it's amazing. Like one of my closest friends, Chris Mahurtis, like his whole family, he's got a family compound. They all want to live there. They all want
Something's
to...
Something's be doing right.
They want to... And so and I've watched him. He's another one of those. I've watched his parenting, and his kids want to be a part of his life.
Right.
You know, and so that's doing something consistently every day and being consistent. I think it's being consistent and showing up in your kid's life in all aspects of it. Not as a dictator, but as a coach. Are we coaching our children, or are we dictating to them, telling them what to do? You know, Coach Dormy's one of the best coaches I have ever known and seen. Now, he also, in my head, can hear him yelling at us.
Well, I didn't know him that way, and I can hear him yelling because we lived across the street.
On the football field. But he was your friend in the locker room. Coach Dormany was strict on the field. Like, you knew where he stood because he required something out of you. And his requirement out of you was your best. And he did not settle. Coach Andrews was the same way. It was kind of like Coach Dormany and Coach Andrews, good cop, bad cop kind of thing, whatever. But Coach Andrews was the same thing. He was the offensive line coach. He was the same way. He was very, very, he did things differently. But Coach Dormany, you would hear him. If you screwed up, he would get on you, he would ride you, whatever. But after practice, he was always available. Like Coach Dormany was always available. When you had a problem, you wanted to talk to him about something spiritual, Coach Dormany was there. He built a friendship. And I look at anyone that'll tell you that have played for Coach Dormady will all tell you the same thing, because he knew how to be a real coach.
Well, if you're modeling Christ, I mean, we sing the song "I am a friend of God." Okay, well, if God's not just the sovereign, lay the hammer down, we only go to him when we need something, or when we've screwed up, or when we, are you being a friend to God? It's the same qualities, the same things. He can be a parent, but he can also be your friend.
Yeah.
Like if
Do your
we're
kids wanna
truly
come to you?
modeling
Yeah.
after Christ, after God, why can't we be the friend too?
Yeah.
Not only the friend, but you should be a friend
Yeah.
to your kids. He's a friend to us.
And if you do, that's part of teaching them and training them the way they may go. Because
And if you're not looking at God as a friend, you're really missing out.
You want them to be that. You want their kids to want to be a part of their life. And, I'm close with my mom and my dad, especially with his situation with the dementia and stuff like that. And, nobody's perfect. No parent's perfect. We're not perfect. Trust me. We're only telling you this stuff because we're learning it ourselves and we're fleshing it out. Why do I know emotional intelligence? Because I'm fleshing it out. I don't know everything. But what I am learning, I put it in words so that I want to tell everybody else. I want them to understand that it's not an easy journey. It is a tough journey. People ask, yesterday we've been talking about, what was the purpose of this heart attack? What was the purpose, And I don't know it 100%, but I do know I'm learning more and more that the purpose is the path. It's going through it and having these conversations, and it opened up for me that this purpose, emotional health, is dire. It's a need. It's a huge need, and people need these podcasts. People need to be asking them these questions, and how am I parenting? How am I doing these things? Because that's what emotional regulation. If we had that, if people just took half of this stuff and used it, you would see a different world. You would
start with empathy.
If our president, I love him to death. He's a great president, but
do you love him to death?
No. But
we throw that around.
I respect him as a leader. He's good at what it. But emotional intelligence, his emotions, his tweets, he lets things fly. He lets things, because that's that disconnects him from a lot of an audience, because of that emotional regulation is not, and so we can see that in our world. If we would just work on these things, it would really make a difference. You finish up on that book?
We're done.
Oh, did you finish all of it? On what you
I
wanted
probably
to read?
didn't finish all of it, but we're good.
What you wanted to read?
We're good. We got the point across.
So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today, and we're gonna have more and more podcasts coming out. We're just excited about what God's doing for us. And if you have any questions, I really want you to interact with us here on YouTube. There's a chat on YouTube that we look at, also on Facebook. If you want to throw us up some questions, we put a lot of little snippets of these podcasts on there. Feel free to hit us up, like, share, comment. Comments are huge.
All of it helps with the algorithm.
Really helps with the algorithm, but it also helps us know the direction that we're going with this is being received, and that you guys need whatever, because that's what we're here to.
Or that you want it.
That's the whole purpose of me doing this, is to, get it out there. What God has put on our heart, and we want to be a service to everyone that's listening to us. So please put a comment, put a like, put a whatever. And share all this so that we can get out and reach the multitudes with this message of the gospel and emotional regulation. So, thank you guys. We love you. You got anything else?
Nope.
All right.
I'm good.
Bye.
Bye.
We'll see you.